at that emotion.
Around the outside. It's time to bring the action.
Yeah, we are your SMX Insiders, Jason Wygant and Jason Thomas here. There's another weekend off for Pro Motocross coming up. The industry is descending on the Monster Energy AMA Amateur National Championship at Loretta Lynn's, including myself. I'll be announcing there all week. Check it out at racertv.com. But when the pro racing resumes at Unadilla next weekend, JT, this is going to be key, not just the who's going to win those titles, but in this show, we'll talk about the playoff implications that are coming up. But let's just start at the top. Jett Lawrence still has a perfect season going, but we know Unadilla is a tough track, and it has been a heartbreaker in the past. So this is going to be a test his way.
Yeah, and then hopefully we'll see the likes of maybe some other riders that could add a little bit to the mix. But anytime you start getting this late, 3 rounds to go, it starts to come into the conversation. I think the pressure goes up a little bit, and we'll see if that conversation changes from championship focus to the perfect season, because they've been fighting that narrative the whole time, but it's gonna start coming up, especially as he gets closer to wrapping this championship up.
Yeah, the way he was being pushed and the way he was pushing with Sexton behind him on a very slippery and treacherous Washougal track, to me that shows he's trying to win every moto. He's not just measuring himself for points. And the guest that you mentioned, I think Ken Roxon's probably going to race Unadilla, and he's very good at that track. So we'll see how that turns out when we resume. But the 450 title, as you're saying, is kind of out the window. Jett has a giant points lead. Not so in the 250 class, man. It is on right now.
Yeah, we're getting all the storylines we could ever want. Hayden Deegan put in one of the best rides, certainly of his career, but one of the best rides that I can remember from anybody. So every time it feels like Hunter is starting to grasp control again of this series, somebody comes back to the forefront, whether it's Justin Cooper or Hayden Deegan, or somebody wants to make this thing interesting. So for all of the lack of suspense, where that's where it all was in 2022, now we're getting all of that fight in the 250 class for 2023.
Yeah, and if you look at those points too, Justin Cooper, not a great season by any standard. He doesn't have a race win yet, and he missed a whole race with injury, but even he's only 19 points out. So there's still a championship fight for at least 3 riders in that class, and that's just the top. Now with playoffs, we're going to focus on this episode on top 20, top 30, who gets in, who has a shot when the playoffs begin in September. So that'll be the focus of this episode. But first, we want to also put a focus back on the charitable foundation for Pro Motocross, which is Road to Recovery. We've talked about their big jersey auctions a lot this year and everything else that they do. So here's more from Lori Armstead. All right, big interview time. We're here at Washougal. We got Lori Armstead from Road to Recovery. Road to Recovery helps injured riders in a variety of ways, not just raising money, but the money raising has been a focus this year. Brian Barnes from here at Washougal, maybe the biggest jersey collection ever, and he's donated it. It's gone very well for you folks.
Oh, yeah. We got donated almost 400. He actually donated about 350 jerseys.
Jeez.
And we've been able to raise, through these auctions, the most amount of money that Road to Recovery has ever raised with an auction before and at an event.
Wow, that's unbelievable. And JT, we've scrolled through this. There's a lot, including some Thomas jerseys?
Yeah, there was one. I think I sent it for Lori at maybe Salt Lake City, but I was going through these. I've had collections of jerseys when I was a little kid. I was at these races, walking around, collecting these things, and so I have an interest in this stuff too. It's amazing the collection that's come to auction here. So my question is though, what's the coolest one you come across? I haven't seen all of them. I did see a Jimmy Button one from his Chaparral days and a Larry Ward, but what's the coolest one that you have seen so far?
Other than yours, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to have to say this amazing James Stewart jersey.
Oh, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
259, and the colorway, I mean, that was groundbreaking when he put this on the track.
It was, yeah. I think everybody at the time, even his competitors, were probably like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
He's winning Lit Kit this weekend.
Right.
Yes. So that's just an example. There's a third part of the auction coming later this summer.
Yes, it's going to go live in conjunction with Ironman.
Yep.
And we will have the final total after all 3 auctions are done and be able to announce really how much money we've been able to raise through all 3. We're really excited. This one will be the largest amount as well. So it's going to be jam-packed.
Ending with a bang there on the auction. But I think what happens when we talk auction, people think, oh, that's what Road to Recovery does. They just get a big pot of money and they throw it at injured riders. But I've noticed there's a lot of other things behind the scenes. Look, medical bills, insurance, you get those things in the mail. No one understands how it works. You folks actually can help with that.
Yeah, that's, to me, we can raise money all day long, but I really think the most valuable asset that Road Recovery does is negotiate medical bills. Mike Young and Anita Button, their valuable experience and time and dedication putting into the research to really make that dollar go farther is such a huge asset for us. I mean, not only do they have a great understanding of the medical, billing procedures in general, but they also know the right questions to ask when you can ask for financial aid and how to really get those big dollars down. And because of that, we've been able to negotiate over $1 million off of athletes' medical bills. So that's huge.
It's cool, JT, because, I mean, you were in these trenches before. Yeah. It's kind of neat to know that the industry, it's circular. People donate, people help. These are ex-racers that are involved with the program to help current racers get better.
Yeah, and just, the community coming together however we can. Obviously, Road to Recovery is kind of the hub, right, where we have this one channel for everybody to come in and help down riders. And you think about all the riders that have been helped over the years that have truly needed it. It's truly a special thing.
Yep. Yeah, it's unfortunate that it happens, but it's part of sports. So, Lori and the folks over there, you're doing everything you can. Where can people go for more information on both the auction and Road to Recovery?
Just go to roadtorecovery.com. That has all of our stuff, or you can go to mxlocker.com as well.
All right. Get a jersey, donate to a great cause, and get something that JT probably wishes that he had on his wall. Okay, 30-second board. Hot topics in the sport right now. We're going to talk playoffs, as we said in the show. Here's a real quick refresher if you're still confused to how the playoffs are going to work. We're going to total up the top points in both motocross and supercross together. The top 20 in those combined points goes straight to the two motos in all three playoff rounds. And riders ranked 21 through 30 have a chance to earn their way in through the last chance qualifier at all three playoff rounds. And then at the end of those three playoff rounds, we'll crown the world champions and pay out a ton of money. And the events are designed to be hybrids of motocross and supercross. The tracks are going to feel different than supercross and motocross. It's going to have elements of both. And real cool, JT, this is what really drives it home. They will have trackside camping at a race in Charlotte and Chicagoland. That's not the way the Daytona Supercross or the Atlanta Supercross works. So if you think you've seen this before, no, this is going to be different.
Yeah, it's going to, I think, incorporate, as it should, both Monster Energy Supercross and Pro Motocross. You get that camping feel the whole weekend. You're going to be able to make out of this event and be on site the entire time. So that's going to bring a whole new wrinkle to this playoff campaign.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some riding press days on Friday, so fans can see that, and you can camp next to the track, and there'll be elevation change and some rough sections of the track. It's not going to just be the Atlanta Supercross, but it won't be Unadilla either. It'll be a combination of both. Okay, so that's the basics there. Yeah, and the whole track is designed at these races. It has elevation change. Obviously, you'll see that in the LA Memorial Coliseum as they go up and down the peristyle, but they've got some elevation change built in Chicago. Let's get into the format of how the races work, JT, with the two-moto format, kind of more motocross there as well.
Yeah, it's going to, I think, again, it lends to both series, right? I think if you just tuned in, it's going to look a lot like Supercross because of the arena type feel and the jump style. But then you have this two-moto format, a lot of outdoor style obstacles. So it's going to be a beautiful mesh, and we will lend towards that outdoor style format for the overall winner.
Yeah, and let's not forget the money. A little over $400,000 on the line at each individual race, let alone the massive points fund, which we'll tell you about in a little bit. But overall, there's $5.5 million paid out between the individual race purse and the points fund at these playoff races. So that's the format, and it'll be fun to watch because we've never seen it before. Now, who gets in? This is what's cool. A little bonus of the playoffs, J2, to me, is that this is even a conversation. We're not normally paying attention to 18th in points, 20th in points, 21st in points at the end of the year. It's usually title or bust. Now we have a whole nother set of parameters. We're going to look at the 250 points bubble right now. Again, top 20 are guaranteed in. Jalek Swoll looking good. He did not race Supercross. He's done well enough in motocross to get well into the top 20. The rider you're really looking at is the rider just on the outside here, 21st, Pierce Brown. He's ridden well in his return to racing, JT. He could rally late and get into that top 20.
Yeah, this was a guy that was a podium contender week in and week out in Supercross, and he's still trying to find his Pro Motocross legs here after a lot of time off. But you got to figure that's another month or 6 weeks away of continuing to find his form, improvement. And when he gets back inside this hybrid type race with the arena and some of those obstacles, again, he's going to fall right back into that rhythm. So even though he's not in that conversation to win these Pro Motocross races or even podium, I think that conversation could ramp up pretty quickly as we roll into September.
Right, and then there's some other riders that we'll talk about trying to even get into that top 30. We'll focus more on that when we bring Clinton Fowler, our statistician, on. It's basically a roll of injured Pro Circuit Monster Energy Kawasaki riders trying to get in. We'll get to that in a little bit. So that's the bubble. Pierce Brown, an example of someone trying to get in. Other guys clinging to top 20 spots. The 250 points fund, we can show you the money here, and this is what they're fighting for. Now, in the 250 class, it's really good. In the 450 class, it's unbelievable. But here's what you're fighting for. Even if you just get in, JT, and you get last, you make $2,000. So it's worth taking a shot at it. And once you get the top 10, it starts being some real money. And again, this money didn't exist in the sport until this year.
Yeah, it's amazing. Myself as a racer, thinking about putting myself into these riders' shoes and what I would be doing, you can see their decision-making process. There's so many racers that have come out of the woodwork, buying motorcycles themselves, showing up, the Colt Nichols and these guys borrowing motorcycles. And it's simply for this, whether it's 250 or 450, riders are attending these races that wouldn't otherwise. And that's probably the best part.
Yeah, and then the fight at the top with Hunter Lawrence on front in combined points right now. If he were to, say, win the World Championship, that's $500,000. So there's motivation for him to keep on racing, obviously, as well. We mentioned Hunter Lawrence at the top, the $500,000. He would start with with an advantage with 25 points because he has the most combined points if it were to end like this. Those riders are searching for the big money. They want to win the title and the $500,000. And then those bubble riders are just trying to get in to win a couple $1,000 bonus as well. There's a nice little battle there between Deegan and Hampshire. It's been quietly brewing all year, JT.
Yeah, it has, and it's kind of almost like a Cold War, right? They haven't had many battles other than you think about like High Point, but yeah, and the points and on the track at times, like they're so close. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, especially when we transition to a format that no one's ever seen before in these stadiums with both obstacles involved.
Again, that reset that we show you here, this is the amount of points the riders would start the playoffs with. And we don't know about some of these riders. Will Max Anstey get a bike? Will he show up to try to make some money in the playoffs? Chance Hymas, we know, is out. I don't think Broswell's deal goes through the playoffs with Troy Lee Designs Red Bull Gas. But if he's in the playoffs, maybe they give him a bike. There's a lot of different things to think about when you see these riders who have guaranteed playoff spots. And this is just year one. I think a couple years down the road, you're going to see a privateer who earns his way in, I think, get a factory ride because the factories would rather have a rider on the gate than a rider not on the gate. So that'll be interesting. Okay, so that's your playoff primer. Let's take a little break here and focus on what comes up after the playoffs. Motocross The Nations, they've still scheduled that event around the playoffs. They actually changed playoff dates. And then thanks to everyone at Infront Moto Racing for changing the MXON date so everyone could still compete. And we're going to raise some money for it. This started last year. Our buddy Paul Parabinos, big part of Team USA now. And we'll have a chance to hang out and raise some money coming up after the LA Memorial Coliseum finale.
Yeah, this is a really cool event. Started last year, and it was really just to try to rally some funding around Team USA to get more assets and more resources so we could get back in the fight. It had been a decade since we had won. The team was able to pull it off at Redbud, and that coincided with this first effort for Raise It for USA. So they're going to do that again. It's a great effort. It's a chance for fans and supporters to get out and play some golf with their favorite rider, that doesn't happen in other sports, right? We have so much accessibility in motocross and supercross compared to other sports. So this is just another opportunity. And hey, if this betters our chances in France in October, I'm here for it.
Go to raiseitforusa.com, the number 4, and get a chance. What is it? Strawberry Hill? Is that the name of the golf course? I don't know anything about it.
Strawberry Farms Golf Club in Irvine, California.
Okay, yeah. And I guess I'm going to have to play golf, which I only did one other time, just like this, for charitable purposes. So spend your money to laugh at me and the other superstars of the sport, the real athletes, and hang out with us. And it'll also be the day after the playoffs end. So kind of an end-of-the-year blowout that fans get to be a part of and raise money for Team USA. And it helps a ton because it's not really budgeted for the riders and teams to go to that event. So funding does help for the resources. Other countries have this, and it helps them a lot. Team France, who won the event 5 years in a row at one point, thanks to their infrastructure. Other news. So we knew last week that it was going to be announced that Eli Tomac is back, but that doesn't mean it's old news. This is still exciting. We're finally going to get the Jett Lawrence Eli Tomac battle in 2024 that we were afraid we weren't going to get ever.
Yeah, this is great for everybody. I guess unless you are Chase Sexton or Jett Lawrence, maybe it's not the best news you heard all weekend, but everybody wanted him in this fight this summer and in the fight next January. So I was excited for it. I don't know what that looks like. Eli should have plenty of time. I think from everybody's account, he looked further along in his recovery than everybody expected him to. I still think it'll be a while before he's on a motorcycle again, but the better and more fit he is now is going to allow him to be better when he gets back on his motorcycle, and then better when we see him in January. So great news for the sport, great news for Eli Tomac, great news for his team. I think it's a win all around.
And other news, and this one might be a little bit quicker. It looks like Justin Barcia finally on the Mandy resurfaced in public. GasGas held a big introduction for their 2024 bikes over in Italy, and Barsha was there, and we hope to get him back at the races pretty soon.
Obviously, we still have Supermotocross. I don't technically know when I'm coming back yet. I know fly home Saturday, get home Sunday, chill at family Monday, fly to California, do some testing, and see where we're at. I can ride 30 minutes, sure. Yeah. Can I hammer 30 minutes yet?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and you can tell he's not giving us specifics or a timeline yet, but you think about the draw of the next roundup on the calendar being Unadilla, home race for him. He's always done well. He has so much fan support there. So if you're anywhere close, I think maybe that's where you make your move back. And think about Jason Anderson at Redbud. He wasn't ready yet, but look at the progress he made over the next few rounds, and then he landed on the podium at Washougal. So it makes a lot of sense there, and let's hope he shows up.
So let's put the focus back on the playoffs. Now in the 450 division, let's look at this points bubble here in the 450 class. This is what's so cool. You mentioned this. Riders are buying bikes to get into this. Shane McElrath is 18th in points. He bought a bike. He showed up at a couple motocross races. He's helped himself massively. And the same thing with Colt Nichols. This is a really neat story.
Yeah, this is great. And again, this is a brand new dynamic. These guys would not be at the races, and I can't state that more strongly. They would not be here if it wasn't for the SMX playoffs. So it's something that's going to be a new dynamic in our sport. This is not going to change. There's always going to be a point situation. There's always going to be a bubble, and everybody's going to be assessing mid-year. And you think about the guys like Kevin Moran's and all these guys, they're going to be more involved in pro motocross than they ever have before, because they have to now think about September. It could be May, June, July. They will be thinking about September and making decisions based off of that. So it's a great thing. More involvement and more inclusion is always better.
Yeah, I'm sure the fans were pumped to see Nichols out there, and he got 10th at Washougal, and the 20-some points he scored there have made all the difference. That's why he's in the top 20. And I think he had so much fun that he's going to try to get back to a couple more before motocross is over to ensure that he's in that top 20. And here's what they're fighting for. Let's give you the points fund. Same thing as the 250 class. Again, each individual race has $400,000 on the line in the purse. But the end of the year, when we total the points, this is unreal. You want to know why McElrath and Nichols and Moran's are coming back? The worst you can do, 22nd, $25,000. I mean, that's practically free money for riders at that level, and then $1 million to win the title. This is why these guys are buying bikes and going to the races.
It is. It's the carrot they're all chasing, right? And you ever wonder if these guys are financially driven, or what they're, the proof is there, and rightfully so. This is a great thing for the sport. It adds so much intrigue for us as fans. It just gives us more to talk about and watch. But for the riders, yeah, this could be life-changing money for some of them.
Yeah, 8th place pays $100,000. It's not impossible for a rider like McElrath or Nichols. They have the talent to end up 8th in combined, when we run those 3 playoff races, $100,000, but only because they gave themselves a shot by getting into the races when they need to. So that is really, really cool. And we'll look at the 450 SMX points now as they stand when we combine them. This is wild. So if we end it, I don't think anyone would be surprised to know that the Monster Energy Supercross champion and coming on strong in motocross, Chase Sexton, would be on top, and he would start the playoffs with 25 points. That is his reward for being the top ranked rider. But there are some surprises in here. Lawrence is up to 5th. I don't know. He could be 3rd by the time this is over without any Supercross points. That's wild. And then you see Roxon still lurking, Anderson still lurking, Barsha still lurking. It's really funny when you put the 2 series together how it actually looks.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. As they get in, they're going to be assigning their points that they earn throughout the season. But I always come back to that playoff point schedule and how the points ramp up. Once you get in, and if you have a decent shot at it, each round gets progressively higher points, and it's going to be anything goes. I really think it's going to be true chaos in the middle of these races in these 2 motos, because the points do escalate throughout each round. So as much as we want to try to glean from this point system at the moment, I think it's going to be all out the window once we get racing.
And then you see the back half of the top 20 there. Ty Masterpool, not on anyone's radar as a 450 rider at all when the year began. He's rallied so well in motocross. He's now in. He's got a shot at money, and he wants to show the industry that he can do more than just race motocross. Even the hybrid type track could be a breakthrough for him. And yes, to your point, first race pays single points, and then we double and triple the points in the second and third rounds. Chaos is going to reign when we get to the playoffs. All right, Fowlers Facts time. We told you we were going to talk 250 Supercross, Motocross playoffs combined in detail here with our statistician, and we will get there. But we were actually just bench racing, Clinton. Loretta Lynn's this week. You've got some experience yourself, maybe dubious at the time, but the fact is you did qualify and you did race back in the day.
I did indeed, Weege. I made it a couple of years, but the results weren't entirely things that I want to write home about nowadays.
All right. Hey, qualifying for the national, they can't take that away from you. So let's talk about riders qualifying now on the pro side for the playoffs. We're going to focus on 250s, and this is a projection that you put together of who you think should be in or who's close.
Yeah, and the first thing is the top 20 cutoff, and I think that's going to be 152 points. Chance Hymas is likely going to be that person. I think that's the place where we're going to see the cutoff for those top 20.
Yeah, but that's a little weird, right? Because he's not going to race. He has a torn ACL.
Yep. He'll be on the sidelines, so nobody's going to bump up into that slot, but he's still going to be that top 20 cutoff.
Yeah.
But then we've got the automatic bids, and there's 9 guys we're guaranteed to see at least in an LCQ race come playoff time. And those guys, Hunter Lawrence, Hayden Deegan, Hampshire, Kitchen, Joe Shimoda, Tom Bial, Justin Cooper, Max Anstey, and Nate Thrasher, all automatic bids and ready to go and in.
Hey, that's what sticks out to me there. Yes, Anstey, by getting a Supercross win back in New Jersey in that mud race, he's guaranteed at least to go to the LCQ. He has enough points right now, I think, to be guaranteed into the Motos. He's going to have to get a bike. Get the team back out there, Yariv. Help your man Max make some money. So that's the current situation. You got some projections here on who might be moving up or making a bid here late?
Yeah, I think the first thing I'd highlight is the clinched guys, Weege. In last weekend, other than the automatic bid guys, but last weekend or 2 weekends ago in Washougal, Max Boland has mathematically guaranteed him a spot. So there's 150 points left in the season to be gained. And based off of that, Max Boland is locked in along with those automatic bids. So JT, there's one thing that I think is kind of interesting here is you got a couple of guys in these automatic bids and clinch spots that have won both a Supercross race and a motocross race. You got guys like Hunter and RJ and Levi. What do you think? Do you think they have an advantage in the SMX format?
Well, I think, certainly confidence, and they've proven that they can be the best guy in both disciplines, right? And as we merge those two into one race, of course, you have to lean on those guys as being the strongest contenders. And we do have at times, we have specialists. When I look at the 450 class, I think of a guy like Ty Masterpool, who really hasn't shown prowess in Supercross, and motocross is really where he's broken out. To have strength in both and consistency in both could really pay off in September. So yes, I think there is something to that.
Okay, so you talked about who's clinched, but there's still some points up for grabs. Anything you're looking at that's maybe not racing yet, might rush back, can maybe make a bid for this?
Yeah, Weege, there's 3 racers I think we're going to really pay attention to, or at least going to be critical to watch as we finish the season. Those 3 racers, Pierce Brown, Seth Hamaker, and Austin Faulkner. Pierce Brown and Seth Hamaker, those 2 guys, to me, are really interesting to look at. They're outside the top 20 right now, sitting 21st and 28th, but I've got them projected to finish inside of the top 20 and be in there for good for the 3 races. And JT, these are guys that incredible speed in Supercross. They've had injuries. Like, these feel like guys that could have some great results and do some great damage in the playoffs.
Yeah, and they're not guys that are, as you mentioned, at the top of your thoughts to come in and be spoilers here. But I think of a guy like Seth Hamaker. He's such an incredible starter. And in this format, if you can continue to put yourself at the front you're going to be in this fight. And his speed has been great. He's been qualifying really well in pro motocross, and we didn't get to see him all spring, right? And you forget about guys like that, but if he comes in healthy, continues to gain momentum as he has been, he could be a guy that's on this podium that we weren't thinking about other than until right now.
One other rider I want to mention real quick is Cameron McAdoo. He's still idle. I think he wants to come back for playoffs. Do you think he'll be in, though, if he doesn't come back for motocross?
Yeah, Weege, I've got him locked in at the 30th spot. So I think he's in. There's a couple of guys that could factor in here late that if a Styles Robertson comes back and has, the last 3 races, but I don't know what his status is. And then a guy like maybe Preston Kilroy can come in. But right now I've got projections saying that Cameron McAdoo is going to be 30th and he'll be in for the LCQs.
All right, let's call it right now. Monster Energy, Pro Circuit, Kawasaki, they are the wild card team. Hamaker, McAdoo, Forkner could all make some serious noise and contend for the World Championship, but they got to get in the playoffs first. It's going to be fun to watch these last 6 motos, see how the math turns out. Thanks, Clinton.
Thanks, Weege. Great to chat with you guys today.
Okay, we're going to wrap this show up, but a quick shout out to the Monster Energy Amateur National Championship at Loretta Lynn's Ranch. They start racing Tuesday. If you're watching this show, by Friday is when we start crowning champions. So you might want to check out Racer TV Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to see how that all shakes out. If you're saying to yourself, why would I care about amateur racing? Hey, JT, you ever watch college football? Is college football somewhat popular, somewhat interesting? That's kind of what this is.
Yeah, just a tiny bit. And as an amateur racer, this is your entire world. You think about this race all year long. If you're training in November and December, I can promise you somewhere in your thought process is this August race in Tennessee. Loretta Lynn's is it's the penultimate. It is the ultimate. It's everything you'd want to be in an amateur race. And I get goosebumps watching it from home because all of those feelings for me as an amateur and all of that anticipation comes back to the surface. I haven't been there in 25 years as a racer.
Yeah, the reputation that everyone carved, they're part of the reason that, say, Ricky Carmichael and James Stewart, our co-hosts, are such legends, is because we all knew they were coming, age 8, age 6, age 10? We had this established ramp up of here comes the future. It's just like college football, for example. You know who the phenoms are before they're even pros, and you get to watch them now. And there are a couple familiar names to fans right now. If you watch Supercross Futures, Daxton Bennett, Julian Beaumer, Casey Cochran, who won the Futures Championship, they'll all be racing all week. So check it out at racertv.com. And then we resume pro racing next weekend at Unadilla, back to East Coast time. So we'll have Race Day Live presented by motosport.com at 10 a.m. That'll run for an hour. And then the motos start at 1 o'clock. And really cool, we'll be back on NBC with more coverage of both the 250 and 450 classes together. Normally, we only have 450 as an NBC. This year, they're giving us 2 hours. And what a gift. We got this Hayden Deegan, Hunter Lawrence. I think I could use the word rivalry now. Truly brewing, JT.
It is. I love it. I think the more we can get of these younger guys having rivalries and really, because this could be feeding on for a decade of this, right? And you want it to be competitive and above board. But yes, I love this because of the future capabilities. These guys are so young and there's so much future ahead.
Tell your friends and family who maybe aren't following the sport all the time. Maybe they don't have Peacock or the SuperMotocross Video Pass. Just tell them to watch NBC. Watch Jett Lawrence. Watch Hunter Lawrence. Watch Hayden Deegan. Probably get Ken Roxon back. Chase Sexton, the rest. It's going to be awesome. That'll be Unadilla a weekend from now. All right, that's our Super Motocross Insider Show. We're the Jasons. Enjoy Loretta Lynn's. We'll see you at Unadilla.